Hi there everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to do a special. It frustrated me as a child that Ash really hasn't utilized a certain Pokemon in his team. If you read the title and see that, you know what I'm talking about. It's it's that Heracross is an unspoken ace to Ash team, but out without using him much in the Johto series, which is a shame because Heracross is a pretty better brought up by nature. Do Heracross justice in anime. Well, not full animated, but what if it's close enough? So today it's gonna be a what if Ash kept using Heracross. We're going to simply change one thing in the anime, even though it is small, but will save Heracross in Ash's team. To put it simply, we're going to go to a episode much earlier in the retirement, as Ash gets a call from Professor Oak and needs Bulbasaur in his lab, which that episode plays out pretty similarly. But the key difference is Ash stares Heracross and he sent Bulbasaur into Professor Oak's lab, which means Ash's nap catcher of knocked out. He still managed to capture no problem, which means Ash doesn't need to send any of his Pokemon back to the lab because he has one open slot, which means Ash has technically half of full Johto Pokemon team, which is quite exciting, which gets Heracross a bit of shine. But we're gonna find out now. Ash challenged Whitney for a Pokemon battle. It plays out similarly, but the key difference is Ash has Heracross, which is a fighting type, which gives Ash a big advantage on Whitney's terrifying milk tank. However, he still loses, but the key is that Ash doesn't need to rely on 3 of his Pokemon to take out one of hers, which means Ash will focus on training Heracross, but training him through more than others like the anime, which means when Ash comes back for his rematch, it is much differently, as Ash does sent out Chikorita for Queen Chikorita to take out a Clefairy, which means when Whitney sends out her melting, this gives Ash a good opportunity. When Chikorita is knocked out, he sends out Heracross immediately, and thanks to his type advantage and able to deal with Miltank's rollout and a couple of his third gym badge in his hands. In a few episodes, Deep Ash challenged Morty like in the original, and he doesn't change out his team because all of the original Pokemon is still here: Pikachu, Noctowl, and Sniggle. It plays out pretty the same, which earns Ash his 4th badge. Our next episode goes to the grass route, which remember that episode where Ash goes into a tournament but only grass type Pokemon can enter? Well, since Ash doesn't have Bulbasaur, but he does have Chikorita, which means that Ash gets to battle Chikorita, and this earns much more experience rather for Bulbasaur because he already done the whole region, which means Chikorita has much more shiny. However, she could not simply defeat that one kid just learning Solo Beam in the battle, which leaves Chikorita devastated, which leads her to wanting to get stronger because recently she's getting a bit jealous ever since Heracross became one of the Pokemon Ashes uses the most, and she determines to get back at Ash's fashions, which means that Chikorita later in the next episode she will definitely earn a lot of experience. And just like in that, and to get slightly stronger in this what if, however, she loses that one trainer. And Chikorita is pretty devastated. She really wanted to win it for Ash. This gets a desire to get stronger and to get Ash's attention much more towards her. And she noticed Ash and Heracross are spending much more than her, which leads Bailey Heracross in a little rivalry. But Heracross doesn't see it, only Bailey sees it, which is quite funny. I can see that happening in the anime where Chikorita wants her Ash's attention. However, let's get to the point and go to the next episode. This is where Chikorita evolves into Bailey, and plays pretty similar. Nothing needs to change. But once Ash challenges Chalk for a battle, he has an opportunity to use his own fighting type in his gym, which leads that Ash can use Heracross against Machoke and Bailey against Poliwrath. And thanks to Heracross being his own powerhouse, Bailey doesn't need to carry as much here, because she can only battle one Pokemon, which she has a type advantage, which leads to a impressive win, which Ash earned his 5th badge here. And this is where we meet Jadrin here, the Steel type specialist and a gym leader. These two still battle. The key difference is that Ash needs Cinequil to battle more. So he sends out Cinequil against Magma Knight, and Cinequil does manage to win, but in this scenario he's much more weaker because most of the time Bailey, Heracross, and Pikachu had much more battle on the side, which means Chikorita, Cinequil is little weaker here, but not as much. And once it goes against the Steelix, it played pretty similarly, but unfortunately it's much more tired and much more weaker, which means that Cinequil has lost against Steelix. But luckily for the Ash boy, he still has Heracross, and knowing that fighting type has a strong against Steel type, and also being bug type, which means he can resist Steelix's ground type moves, which leads Ash to a 6th badge pretty convincingly. And this is where Ash gets vampy. At this point he needs to send one of his Pokemon away, and he decided to choose Heracross. He needs to not overuse Heracross at this point because he's fallen victim, just like how he's only using his powerhouse like Charizard, and the rest of his Pokemon are lacking the battle experience besides from Bailey and Pikachu. But his rest of his party member needs it much more. So Ash sends Heracross away and gets Vampy like in the original. But once we get to Price, however, Ash changes his tactics a bit. In the original, he uses Cynical and Pikachu. However, in this scenario, Ash will choose Bailey instead of Pikachu, knowing that Paraswine is pretty immune to Pikachu's electric attack, which lead Ash to use Cynical and Bailey. And it played out similarly into the, however, that changes until Paraswine comes and pretty much knocked out Cynical with Bulldozer, which leads Ash with no other choice but to send out Bailey, his second strongest Pokemon in the Johto region. And thanks to Bailey's experience throughout her journeys, and Paraswine pushing her very limits as Paraswine keep uses Ice Beam, which forces an evolution, and this is where Bailey evolves into Meganium, and thanks to Meganium's overwhelming strength and learning a new move, Solar Beam. And with this move alone, knocks out Power Slam and earns Ash his 7th badge here. And Claire's gym battle, it played out pretty similarly where Ash needs a rematch and Team Rocket interferes, and we skip forward to where Ash faces Claire for a battle. It played pretty similarly in the anime. Everything plays out pretty similarly where Ash just uses Pikachu, Snorlax, and Charizard. I don't see Ash brings back Heracross here. He doesn't see how Heracross could win him, even though he's at this point he's ace in this region, but it's unsure if Heracross could win this. But luckily, Heracross gets to shine in the Johto lead. Ash's battle with the two trainers with a 3-on-3 goes pretty similarly. That's until Ash's face against Gary. That changes because Ash at this point he wanted to use his strongest Pokemon, and it showed that he ditches Pikachu here as he only chooses his fully evolved Pokemon at the time, and it showed. However, if we notice two things here, Ash has a much more stronger Heracross, and Ash doesn't have Bailey anymore. He has Meganium, which is a significant stronger Pokemon by himself. Ash will use Tauros, Heracross, Mach, Snorlax, Meganium, and of course Charizard. And the battle begins pretty similarly but luckily for Ash, has a stronger Heracross here, which means Heracross survives Blastoise's attack, and Ash quickly sends back in. He attempted to quickly send out Meganium, but Gary quickly switches out and sends out Arcanine here. But luckily, Ash doesn't need he doesn't need typing to win here, as Ash managed to pull out ahead and Meganium managed to beat Arcanine. However, it's severely damaged, and once Gary sends out Scissor to finish off Meganium, Ash quickly sends back in Heracross as a bug faces bug here, and somehow Heracross managed to tie with Heracross, which means that for the rest of the episode it played out pretty similarly. The only key difference is that Mark here pretty much slowed down his team here, and it's knocked out pretty easily. Luckily for Ash, he still has Snorlax and Charizard, as everything plays pretty similarly where Ash managed to win. And this changes quickly shift the timeline here, as once Ash wins his battle with Gary, he finds out his next battle is Harrison, a mysterious trainer in a different region with a mysterious Pokemon he has never seen before. He never even know there's a fighting and fire type Pokemon. This scares him a bit, but not much, because he's determined to win the tournament with his team. The battle with Harrison plays out pretty similarly. The only exception is that I don't see Ash use Noctower here, because at this point Ash pretty much exclusively uses his strongest Pokemon. So I see him switching out Noctower with Heracross, seeing that Heracross is much more battle worthy here than with Noctower, which goes pretty similarly in the anime except for one key difference. Once when it's halftime, Ash sends Heracross instead of Snorlax, where Harrison sends out his Steelix. And with the experience of battling these types of Pokemon before, Ash easily wins this with Ash easily wins this with Heracross, but Tyson quickly sends out Houndour, but much more earlier. This is unfortunately where Heracross is defeated here. However, it greatly wounds Houndour greatly, enough so that when Snorlax jumps in and easily knocks out Houndour. Since Tyson is and Harrison sent out Blaziken, but unfortunately this is where Snorlax thumbs down is defeated here, because Blaziken is much more faster and has the fighting type. I don't see Snorlax can win this. This leaves Ash with two options, Meganium and Charizard, but luckily he chooses Meganium, even though he's not confident that Meganium could win it. But he does want to quickly how Blaziken battles to get a feeling. And luckily for Ash Meganium managed to do some damage, but not as much, as once Blaziken defeats Meganium with a Blaze Kick. However, thanks to Meganium's heated battle, Ash is much more confident winning with Charizard. And unlike in the original, Charizard basically had to fight against 3 different Pokemon with Gary, 2 of them which is weak against, but luckily you only battle with Blastoise, which means that Charizard has much more energy and not battle worn, which means that Charizard wins here. It's a weird feeling that at this point Ash did beat Harrison here, which leads to the question, what happens next? This is one of my theories comes into play. Ever since Harrison has been using Blaziken in the original anime, it is shown that after battling with Ash's Charizard, it showed that he needs to put Blaziken to rest, showing that it's tired from the previous round. And I can see Harrison tell Ash this information. He's been using Pokemon like Heracross, Snorlax, Meganium, and Charizard, 4 of the Pokemon that Ash has been using the most, and it shows you because all 4 of them are very tired, which means Ash has to readjust his team here, which is Pikachu, Cyndaquil, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, Noctowl, and the new teammate Phanpy. Luckily, all these Pokemon have their own. Luckily, all these Pokemon have enough experience to handle a battle, especially Pikachu, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle. But unfortunately, having Phanpy kinda slowed down there, because it showed that Phanpy isn't experienced in battle because it's still technically a baby around this time, which means that Ash loses here. So, where do we go from here? Luckily, a new region comes around, and we're going to see Heracross not at the beginning, just nearly in the end. And we'll see you next time. I hope you guys like this kind of video where we get to really nitpick what would really happen in the anime. See, unfortunately, lucky for you guys, this isn't for end for Heracross's journey with Ash. Make sure you leave a like, follow, to make sure you can see a notification on the next part. So make sure you do so with a subscribe and leave a like, which is much appreciated. And see you next time. Peace.